Hi, my name is Nick Nestler, and welcome to another exciting edition of PHP. As we're going to go over string manipulation, this is for Hyperactive Studios. Now, I accidentally forgot to plug in my headphones, so I already wrote up this file, and I just realized I made a silent video. So, what I did is I went in here and I named it string underscore manip.php, and then I just fired it up in Firefox, and let's just kind of go over this, what I did. Um, I'll just break this down again, and it'll go faster because I won't be typing it up. But program equals, so I copy and pasted this from arrays. You can just come back over to arrays and copy and paste it from here. That's where I got it from. If you remember right, we can take explode, and what we can do is take a whole string of values, and we can convert that into an array. And then I displayed it as array values as it goes down here, one by one, for each element in the array, which would be like C, C++, C Sharp, Java, Python. And we can see the result of that right here, where it does C, C++, C Sharp, Java, Python, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. But what I did next was came in here and I said, alright, let's do a programming str here equals explode here. In this case I said open quotes, comma, space, quotes here, comma, $ programming array, close parentheses, semicolon. And what that did is it let me implode it, as it's called, where I can take an array and combine it back into a string. Now, this may not mean as much. If I come in here and maybe put that as my separator, or maybe I do it with a tab character instead, assuming it'll actually tab, that'd be nice if it does. And of course, it just doesn't. It creates a tab, but HTML ignores it. So we have our C here, space C++, space C Sharp, space Java, etc. So I'm not going to tab it. I'm going to put a comma and a space in there instead. And I'll change and manipulate that back. Bam, there we are. C, C++, C Sharp, etc. And all I did was I took all the elements in an array and it just puts a comma and a space after each element in the array. You're separating them as it goes through it. And that's what implode does. So implode basically is the opposite of explode. It takes, explode will take a string and convert it into an array. Implode will take an array and convert it into a string. So it lets you go back and forth when you need it. So implode and explode are actually really useful, and you'll find them quite nice when you're dealing with different things you need to do with going to databases for storing data and pulling the data out, sending it, returning it, etc. So it's extremely useful. And here with the echo here, I'm just displaying the result of that and going to the next line. Then I started doing another example. And this is trim. What trim does is if I say $name here equals in quotes, and I put spaces because what people will do is when they're inputting stuff, they're typing stuff into a field or whatever, sometimes they'll hit space or something else, and then they'll say another space or something like that at the end of their name after I'm typing it, or they'll put space at the end of their name and not the beginning of their name, or they'll put one at the beginning of their name and not the end of the name, or you have no idea what people are going to do when they're typing stuff in. So in order to get just what they typed in and no extra trailing spaces on each end or whatever, or any other special characters like end of line and blah blah blah, if you want to eliminate all that stuff or a tab or whatever that they could have hit, then the best way is to use trim. Trim will take out all those trailing spaces on the beginning and end of the text for whatever you're passing into trim. So that would eliminate the space here in front of it and also after it. Because trim does both. It gets both sides. So this is usually ideal when you're dealing with input coming in from someone else, like they're typing a username or password, anything like that, because they might accidentally hit space or whatever. And it's not good if they do. So you have to trim their values so that way you don't have someone doing that. Because a regular person's going to have a hard time figuring out that they actually put a space there. And so you can see right here with trim, I have Nate Nestler here and nothing on either side. Now originally that wasn't the case. Originally I do have spaces on each side, and I can prove that if I come in here and remove the trim, like so. There we go. And I were to save. Now I just put these vertical bars on each side. And you can type them by holding down shift, and it's the key right above the enter key there. That lets you make a vertical bar. I just did that to show that there was no space on each side earlier. So check it out right here. Right there where there has no spaces on each side. When I update this, notice there's spaces on each side. That's the original. Of course, with trim, I was removing that space. So there you go. But I don't have to just trim both sides. I can actually trim one side or the other. So if I do a right trim, I say R trim. And R trim will let me get rid of that trailing space on the right hand side only. So there you go, we got rid of the trailing space on the right hand side only, but not on the left. Now if I come back in here and I say L trim, this will trim just on the right hand side. Cool, so then we trimmed just on the left hand side and not on the right hand side. So that's the difference between R trim, L trim, and trim. L trim is going to be trim on the left hand side, R trim is going to be trimming on the right hand side, and trim is going to trim on both sides. So it's totally up to you what you need to do for something. There's a lot of flexibility there. Alright, and the next one is a more powerful version of printing beyond what Echo can do. And so Echo is pretty cool, but Printf is more powerful. And this comes from the C language, basically, where it's originally originated from. And if we look at $account equals, in this case it's at 105.37, so $105.37. We say printf here, in quotes, %s, and in this thing I can have it where it says, Nate Nestler here with the %s, because I'm going to pass in name. So %s is going to be used with strings. And then f here is going to be used for floating point values. Now if I say 0.2, I'm limiting it to where it only can have 2 decimal places for my floating point values. It's great. So that way it only shows 105.37. Now I'll show you what happens if I don't do that. I just end up saying, so I'm basically saying, say Nate Nestler has space $105.37 with a bunch of O's after it. Amount of money left in his account, period, comma. So the $ name gets replaces the %s because it's the first variable. So therefore the first variable is going to get assigned to the very first data placer, if you will. It's like a position inside your sentence for placing the data. And whichever one comes first, that's the order in which you have to put your variables. So this one comes first, therefore the variable that corresponds to this data here has to come first when we're listing them. And then this one comes second, so this one has to come second when we're listing it here. So that's why account is next. So whatever is stored in account is going to get displayed in %f, but I'm going to format it as a floating point value. So that's why I use %f. And I say amount of money left in its account. Alright, so if I save and I say run this, you'll see it says Nate Nestler has $105.37 with a bunch of zeros, amount of money left in his account. So let's me, see how much I have left in my account or whatever. Which isn't accurate, but whatever. Just in case anyone's wondering, it's not accurate. But if I do 0.2, I can eliminate those zeros and squeeze it down to where it only has 2 floating point decimal values. So it's really, really nice when you're displaying values like this. So it gives you a lot of control over just how many decimal places you need and all that stuff. So Nate Nestler has now $105.37 and basically $105.37 amount of money left in his account. There you go. Cool. And that's pretty neat because then we have control over how we are going to essentially make it to where it fits this positioning. Just to kind of jump back over here though on the trim, you notice I kind of trimmed it off on here when I did the %s. It does that automatically. But something about this trim here I'd like to point out is that this is extremely useful, especially when you're testing to see if a certain person logged in or whatever for their username. If they put a space after it and you don't trim it, your string comparison is going to fail when you do it because you'll end up comparing like Nate with a space versus Nate. The computer sees that as two totally different things, and so they won't get logged in. They won't be considered to be the same thing. So you must trim their input before you test it with an if condition statement or something like that. Absolutely super important to do that, and that's how you do that. But kind of want to point it out a little bit more. We might be going, why do I care about trimming the sides of it? It really matters a lot, actually. Getting rid of any unnecessary spaces will really make sure that your test conditions go through correctly when you're doing ifs and things of that nature like we learned before. Alright, so I created like a little chart here of my last silent video. But so there's lots of different ones here, not just %s and %f. There's actually a good number of these. If I need to create a % sign, I escape it by saying %%, and this will display a % sign inside the printf. If I say %b for binary number, this will do ones and zeros, things of that nature, and I can do that. If I say %c ASCII value here, this will let me display a particular character from the ASCII table if I put in a number value stored. If I pass it a number value that corresponds to that ASCII character on the table. So it's a great way of displaying special characters you couldn't normally display or type on the keyboard. So that's what you're going to use the ASCII for mostly. %d is going to be assigned decimal. %e is scientific notation lowercase. %E is scientific notation uppercase. %u is unsigned decimal. %f is floating point number. %f is floating point number. Also, but with okay, so yeah, basically it lets you aware of your local settings here. If it's lowercase f, if it's uppercase f, it's not aware of the local settings. So I'm not getting into that, but yeah. %g here is shorter of the %e and %f, and this should be really lowercase f because it has to do with the uppercase letters, but with aware of local settings. Sorry. This will be an octal number here, like so, for O, but G is the shorter version. String here, it's going to be %s, like I just showed you. Hexadecimal number is going to be lowercase, and a capital X is going to let you do hexadecimal number uppercase. So that's the difference between them all. You might want to write this into a sheet, like maybe put it into a PDF or something. Like use LibreOffice. You can save out PDFs with that. It's kind of cool. LibreOffice is a nice open source office suite, and you can type that up if you wanted to. But it's kind of nice to have these written up to where you can look at them from time to time, because you don't probably want to memorize all these by heart, at least not for a while. You're not going to use a lot of these on a regular basis. I mean, some of these, how often do you use octal numbers to be displayed is rare. So a bunch of these you're just going to have to look them up because a bunch of them you're just not going to use them on a regular basis. It's just not going to happen. There'll be certain ones you use all the time, and there'll be other ones you just won't use very often at all. So for that reason, probably just want to turn it into like a chart or something like that you can look over whenever you need to. But alright, so with that, let's go on to some of the next things to cover here. Okay, so let's go over the sprintf here. and we're going to do that. I'm just going to say, well, I'll tell you what, before we do that, I'm just going to copy and paste this up here. It's echo right here. Boom. And then with echo, let's sit here and afterwards, let's just create, alright, let's do a $ output. Let's create a new variable called output. We're going to use sprintf. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm not going to retype all this. I'm just going to copy and paste this printf. It's the same thing, but instead of displaying it to a screen, what we can do is we can create a formatted string that we assign to a variable instead. You can't do this with printf, but if you do sprintf, you can then assign it to a variable if you like. So instead of having this whole wonderful sentence being displayed to the screen, I can actually store it into a variable. Then once it's stored into a variable, I can do anything I want with it. I could display it, I could manipulate it, I could run some of my other string manipulation tools on it. It's really up to me, up to you, whatever you want to do with it after that point. But I'm just going to display it to show you that it does work and it does come out being the same thing. So $ output. I'm just going to concatenate this with a BR tag. Like that. And so this is a way of actually taking one of the strings. Instead of displaying it to a screen, you can actually save it into a variable. And so you can see how printf can be a lot more powerful than echo. There's actually some other variations of printf I haven't got into. Maybe later on here in this video I'll get into it. I don't know. I might have to break this into like a couple of videos for string manipulations, possibly here if it gets too long, because string manipulation material can actually get there's a good bit of it. There's a lot of it really, but alright, we'll just keep going through it here. And assuming I didn't make any mistakes, which I might have. I did. How awesome is that? Alright. So I did something bad. Which sounds like something I would do. And things didn't get printed up properly. Alright, so let's try. Alright, let's just try taking out this bottom one here. See if we can get the top part here to run without any mistakes here. So let's see if that's where my mistake came into play. Let's find out where I made the mistake. Okay, it loves me now. Alright, good. And so it looks like my echo is a culprit. Yep, sure is. I forgot to put the double quotes on the end here. And there we go. And so I get the same thing, but notice this is now stored inside of a variable, and I can just display that variable with a totally different command for that matter. So, you can do whatever you want with these printfs. It's pretty neat. It's really quite cool. Alrighty. So besides that, there's some other things we can do too. I want to just show you some of the things that we can do that's pretty neat. So for instance, I could take my name if I wanted to, and it's going to store over my previous when I was storing the name, which was previously I stored my name in uppercase. So if I say name, it's equal to quotes, and it says something like Nate Nestler, like that. Close that there, and then I say echo here. And say I want to display this as just $name dot, and then let's dot this with our BR tags. Close that one. Alright, cool. Save. Alright, and then when I run this, you can put your own name. It's fine. I get Nate Nestler here, but it's all lowercase. But what if this was like part of a sentence or something like that, and I just want just the first letter to be capital? Now, really, I would want both letters to be capital because This is a special name. This is a name, as far as that goes. But let's just assume that's not the case. A couple things I could use. I could use UC first, which would be uppercase, basically the first letter. And I can do this directly in a string. So I could do this directly on the string right here. So I could say UC first like this. Or I'll show you a couple ways you can do this. And we get the first letter here is uppercase. So it's great if you want to automatically make sentences uppercase. It's really, really kind of cool. But another way I could do this is, not even have the function on the actual text. Because usually that's not going to be the case. Usually you're going to be doing this on a variable. Let's say something like $name. And I'm going to make it equal to itself. But I'm going to manipulate it with my function first. So $name again. Close that there. So I'm going to make it equal to itself, but uppercase letter. Alright, cool. And I get the exact same result. You shouldn't see any difference. So very, very cool, and we can handle it that way too. Besides UC first, let's see here. I could also uppercase words. So this would be each word would be uppercased instead. In the case of my name here, this makes more sense. But so instead of saying first, I could say words. And when I do, watch the result of this. Bam. Now Nate Nestler is both capital N's here because we said UC words, which would be uppercase words. So each word is going to get uppercased for the letter. Now this is different than if I wanted to make the entire thing uppercase. If I want to make everything capital letters, I'm going to say instead STR to upper, like that. It's going to make everything go capitalized. Now it's Nate Nestler in all caps, like that. And that's cool. But what if, just what if, I wanted that to be now lowercase afterwards? So obviously it's now uppercase, but what if I wanted the whole thing to be lowercase? I can do that. So you saw the result of running uppercase on it. But I could actually turn around and then make it lowercase again after it's been uppercased. So that's very cool. And the reason why is maybe someone put something in all in caps or whatever, or they have different capitalization. You need to do a string test, and you need to make sure everything matches up exactly. So if you make it go to too lower or too upper, that way you can make strings match exactly when you're doing these comparison tests for ifs. You might be going, why would I need too upper or too lower? That's why, basically. It lets you do string comparisons. You may need, for some reason, to make something all uppercase or all lowercase too, for another reason. But the main reason we usually use this for is for doing string comparisons, so that way the capitalization matches exactly, so that the string matches exactly, no matter what people type. So this makes it easier to compare strings. And here we are, Nate Nestler now, all lowercase. There we go. Very good. So next example of how to use those. Let's see here. What else? There's so many things to cover. Let's see here. Went over UC words. Went over the other one. There's just a lot of information to cover with all this. Alrighty. Well, let me hunt down. Oh yeah, we need to go over join too. That's right. Okay. So, say I wanted to combine several parts of, say, a sentence or something like that. I can do that. And I went over how to do several things earlier, but I didn't go over join. Join's an important one. Join is one of those you use a lot too. Alright, so let's look at that real quick. Let's see here. Well, say I have an array of Cars. I don't know. Could do foods. Foods might be more fun. Let's do foods. Alright. Different types of foods we could have, right? First I'll need to say array. Double close parentheses, semicolon. And maybe let's see here. Well, hamburger. Let's see, besides hamburgers, there's what? Well, there's egg rolls. Besides that, there's all kinds of different types of food. There's fridge food, there's German food, there's, I mean, you know, could have called this country food and list all different countries. Alright, so hamburger, egg rolls, I don't know, stir fry, red velvet cake, etc., etc., etc. Say Alaskan baked pie. I think that's how you spell that. Not sure. It's been a while since I made one of those. Alright, so I think stir fry has a space in it too. Okay, well, anyways, let's assume that that's my foods array or whatever. I can join these actually though. I can say something like echo. If I were just echo, now you know normally we'd have to write a loop and all this to display this, but if I use join here with this, you know, why didn't we do this earlier? Well, because to teach things in, you know, sequence or can't cover everything all at once. It's too much work. But you'll love this. This is pretty cool, actually. And this will save you from having to write loops by just using this join statement here. Yep. Oh, no way indeed. Check it out. It joined all those parts of that array into a single string. And it combined them. So it's what join does. It's pretty useful and it's used a lot. And that's why right there. It's just, I don't know, I could separate these with a comma in here. It's nice. It's just nice. There it is with commas. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. A whole lot of stuff you can do with this. Let's see here, slash that. I think I might be able to get away with this. Yep. There I put it in a break tag and notice it automatically just goes down each line. Awesome. I mean, it's just so cool. So this is really, really neat. You know, and if I'm not mistaken, you can actually combine functions. So remember that UC word we were talking about before, UC words? We actually could come in here like this and say, oh, I want each word to be capitalized, and I want it to be joined, and I want it to be, you know, you get the idea. And you can come in here and do things like, no, maybe not. Well, this is what happens when I go off script again. Yeah, I do this all the time. You guys are probably getting used to me doing this now. Foods. Alright. I thought I could nest one function inside the other. Nope. Is it word? I'm trying to remember. uppercase word. I thought it was word. I'm making some kind of mistake. What did I do a second ago? Ah, man. This is just like me. Alright. Have to think again for a second. Should be UC words. Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm not thinking. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, no. It's applying it directly to the array. That is not going to work. But I can put it on the join. It's like this manipulates strings. You see where it manipulates strings. It's not a string until after I do the join. So I was putting it on the wrong thing. Wasn't thinking. Oh my gosh. Alright. There it is. And now they're uppercase for the words for some of them apparently. But not others, which doesn't make sense. But okay. Wow. That's kinda weird. Should not have done that like that. But anyways. Huh. I wonder if the BR tag's messing with it. Yep, it is. That's what I figured. So there you can see it with the, yeah, there's a good point. BR tag can mess with this. So depending on how you're going to handle this for your output or whatever, it depends on how you have to nest this. Everything goes hunky-dory like you expect it to. So that was a problem, actually having the BR tag like that. So there we go. There we go indeed. Might have been okay if I put a BR tag in here like this and have spaces on each side, so that way it still capitalizes it the way we want. Yeah, I was right. So that's probably gonna mess with you. You go, what? um, so right here, if we put these capital letters like so. All right, so this is happening because by putting spaces on this capitalization for these UC words happens on uses the space as a delimiter. So essentially, what I'm saying is that if I put this BR tag without spaces around it, this thing is on this join is putting spaces with the BR tag. If I'm going to make this go into the next line, I need to have the spaces there for the delimiter for the UC words, so that way it spaces it out between each word. Otherwise, if I don't have spaces on each side of this, it smashes this BR tag directly up against the word, and then it uppercases the BR tag instead of the actual word. Of course, you don't see the BR tag because that's like hitting an enter key on the keyboard inside of HTML, so it makes it go to the next line. And so what the end result is that these words on some of these words they don't never get capitalized, but the other ones do because they have a space for delimiter, which lets them get capitalized. So if I put spaces on each side of this BR tag, then it acts as the delimiters on each side, spaces it out. It makes the BR tag like its own word. It still gets capitalized on the BR tag, but so does all the other words like it's supposed to. And of course, we don't see the result of the BR tags getting capitalized because it goes to the next line, like as if you're hitting the enter key. So that was the deal, and that's why I had to think for a second. Yeah. Wasn't thinking, oh my gosh, I want to write that a second ago. But hey, there you go. Gotcha. That's a gotcha right there. Very cool. So yeah, be aware of how these things work, really, and think through stuff thoroughly when you're coding this, so that way you can differentiate when things are happening in certain ways and what's going on there, so you can easily quickly solve the problem if you can, as far as that goes. Oh yeah, by the way, there's another one that's really cool too. And say I wanted to write up a sentence, and this is pretty cool. Um, Alright, so it's going to come on down here like this and say $, statement. I don't know, I'm just going to call the variable statement. And say hello, John. It's like the computer talking to you. I think it was in a movie or something back when. Probably wasn't John though, but oh well. Maybe it was Bob. I don't know. Bob sounds great. Alright, anyways, there's our statement. And if I display this statement, let's just go ahead and echo this so you can see it. $statement, like so, semicolon. Now, this may not make a whole lot of sense to you at first here for why I'm doing this. And we get hello John, blah 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 blah. Let's space this out though on our p tag here to kind of add a visual separator between this example and the previous example as far as that goes. So let's go ahead and copy that. Alright, and wrong place, put that really up above. Well, up above this whole block of statements there would be even better. There we go. Not like it'd make a visual difference, but as far as layout in our code, I like to have that above. Bam, there we go. And cool, but it's ignoring this /n here, which is a new line character. So why is that happening? Well, it is getting put in. The problem is it's not part of HTML. So I can put this on a new line all I like when I generate out the source code, and HTML is going to ignore it. Because they just ignore white space period. I can say as many inner keys or spaces as I like. It's just as if I just typed in a single space. It ignores it all. It removes it all. So what if we want, though, that to actually take place? We want that to actually happen and actually affect it for real, and not just maybe kind of sorta. We really want it to actually do it all the way. Well, it's actually doable, and we can actually make that happen. Assuming I'm not going to make another fun little mistake here. And the function we can use to do this is nl2br. So nl2br, which is new line to break. So we're going to take our new lines, which is our /n's there, and we're going to convert those into our break statements, which is our br tags right here. So essentially, make this real clear, we're going to translate our new line characters into br tags, and then we'll get a totally different result. Check this out. Notice it automatically went to the next line. So everywhere you have these /n's inside of a sentence, whatever, and you run the function nl2br function, it will automatically convert those into br tags and automatically make it go down to the next line for those. So you can actually put several /n's in there, and it keeps you from having to write br tags and inserting them or whatever, as far as that goes into your text. This is extremely useful if you're taking other type of documents and things like that that are non-HTML written, because they use /n's. They do not use br tags, and it's quite common to see a /n in a regular document. And so you can take those documents and essentially reformat them as HTML with br tags in place of what would be the /n tag for the new line character. So that's really, really neat, and so that's also a very useful tag. But wait, there's more tags, so let's go over those now too. Alright, so let's go over how to strip out slashes. So we'll start with C-style slashes, and then we'll do some other type of slashes, and how to add in slashes, how to strip out tags. Let's just go over all that stuff. And this helps you prepare stuff for being database safe ready, all that stuff, you don't want slashes stored into the database, so you need to remove those ahead of time. And then you can add them back in afterwards. So, in order to do that, we need to do something a little special here. Alright. So if I say, first of all, let's do our BR tag again. Otherwise it's going to be slammed up against this one, and I don't want that. So, and then we're going to echo out statement, but I'm going to do a BR tag at the end of this one too. Alright, semicolon, get it going there as far as that goes. Alright, and $ statement. And $ statement is going to be stored, it's going to be passed into the function strip C slashes. Alright, so we need to strip the C slashes off of this thing. So it's going to remove our /n because it's a C slash. C style slash. And we get, hello John, what are you doing, John? Now, when we remove the /n here, it got rid of that whole thing, so we don't see /n being displayed. And it's been removed from the statement here. Let's do another one where we just remove slashes on their own. That's not C style slashes, just regular slashes. So we can strip those also. Maybe we make another statement here. Let's say it's equal to Alright, and then for some crazy reason, we just start throwing slashes in the air for no apparent reason. Alright, so obviously we don't want those slashes in there. Now if I go down to an echo statement and display this, I'm going to get the slashes, right? Alright, put our BR tag in there, save it, and let's go have a look at this. So Firefox here, and get, hey, how is it going with slashes in it? But what if I didn't want those slashes in there? You might say, well, don't type them in the first place. Yeah, but say someone else typed them in and I need to remove them. Alright, well, I can do that. So strip slashes, like so. And boom, it removes them just like that. Pretty cool. So that's how you can remove slashes. Since we're on the topic of stripping things out, let's look also how to strip out tags. This is real important when you're storing your information into a database. If you can strip the tags out, you can prevent SQL injection attacks. So it's kind of useful. Please stop that. Okay, thank you. Alright, there we go. So, HTML is equal to. Alright. So, I don't know, I'm going to just do my name again. Bold, italicized, underlined, 8. Closing B tag. Closing, well, before the B tag. You close U, right? Closing U tag. And you close the I tag too. Italicize. Alright, so if I run that, it's gonna echo $HTML dot User BR. Now notice I'm putting these brackets for this BR tag outside of this. If I don't, it's going to get stripped out. So kind of important for this demo that I do it like that. You might be going, well, why don't you just put the tag in here at the end? Well, because it's going to get stripped out when I run this command. So I don't want to do that. So for that reason, I'm kind of, separating things up. You start to get the idea of how you can start combining these different functions that do different things. So right, so we have Nate here, all capitals, underscore, etc. But what if I didn't want that to happen? What if I wanted something totally different? Well, I can do that actually. I can remove this, I can store it without having the HTML on it. And very, very useful and very, very cool. Let's look at how to do that. So if I say strip tags, like that, open parentheses, close parentheses, this will remove the tags from the sentence, and I'll just get a regular plain old Nate without all the specialty stuff. Or I can make a mistake and not display anything at all. That's also a possibility. Which is exactly what happened, of course. Oh, man. Alright. Let me think for a second. What did I do wrong? Go back over here to what I typed. And have a look at it again. And it'd probably help if I remember to put the underscore right here. Why on earth does it have an underscore and nothing else does for strip commands? I don't know, but it does. And there it is. So there's Nate without the tags on it. So you notice it's not bold, underline, or italicized anymore for Nate. It's just regular old Nate now. Alright, there's some more of strings. That's still not everything for strings. There's still more. Yep. Oh boy.